It was supposed to be a new beginning, a quiet neighborhood, a fresh start, a house that finally felt like home. For the Harrison family, life was looking up. Mark, an architect with a dream of restoring old homes, Emma, a teacher who believed every house had a story, and their 8-year-old daughter Lily, who called this her forever home. They moved in on a bright June afternoon, filled with laughter, boxes, and plans for the future. But behind those walls, another story was waiting. A story buried so deep, no one ever meant for it to be found. The neighbors said the house had been empty for years, but on their first night, Emma thought she heard footsteps in the hallway. Mark said it was the pipes, but the dog refused to go upstairs, and Lily swore she heard someone whisper her name from behind her bedroom wall. What the Harrisons didn't know was that beneath the paint and plaster, sealed away by hands that never wanted it revealed, was a hidden room, a secret that had been waiting for decades. And when they finally found it, what was inside would change everything they thought they knew about their home, their town, and each other. This is the story of the family who bought a house and found a secret room behind the wall.
The first few days were full of promise. The Harrisons unpacked every box, painted every wall, and made plans for every room. Mark loved the high ceilings. "They don't make them like this anymore," he said. Emma adored the vintage fireplace, and Lily claimed the attic as her secret playroom. It was old, yes, but charming. The kind of house that felt like it had history in every creak. But old houses have memories, and not all memories are meant to resurface. On the third night, as the rain tapped gently against the windows, Emma woke to a faint sound, a slow, rhythmic knock. At first, she thought it was a storm, but the knocking wasn't coming from the window. It was coming from inside the wall. She nudged Mark awake. "Did you hear that?" He listened. Silence. Then 3 soft knocks again. Tap, tap, tap. "It's probably the old pipes," Mark muttered, half asleep. But when he got up to check, the sound stopped. By morning, they laughed it off. But that day, Emma noticed something strange while unpacking in the hallway. A patch of wallpaper that didn't quite match. It looked newer than the rest, like someone had tried to cover something up. She made a mental note to ask the previous owners, but they never answered her calls. Over the next week, little things began to pile up. Lights flickered. Doors creaked open on their own. Lily's toys kept moving from one side of her room to another. And every morning, the family dog, Max, would sit facing the same corner of the living room, growling softly. When Emma asked Lily why she'd moved her dollhouse one morning, the little girl said something that froze her in place. "I didn't move it, Mommy. The lady did." Emma blinked. "What lady?" Lily pointed at the wall. "The one who talks to me when you're asleep." Emma tried to brush it off. Kids had imaginations, right? But that night, as she tucked Lily into bed, she noticed faint scratches on the wall beside the nightstand. Long, vertical lines that looked almost deliberate. And under Lily's bed, hidden behind her toys, was a small piece of wood painted the same color as the hallway wall, a piece that shouldn't have been loose. That was the first time Emma realized the walls in this house were not solid. Something or someone had once been behind them. And if the sound she heard that night was real, maybe they still were. By the end of their second week in the house, Emma couldn't stop thinking about that patch of wallpaper. It wasn't just the color, it was the texture. Everything in this house was old, worn, and faded, But that section looked new, almost like someone had redone it recently, in a hurry. One morning, while Mark was at work and Lily was at school, Emma decided to take a closer look. She peeled back a corner of the wallpaper. Beneath it, smooth plaster. But when she knocked on it, the sound wasn't sounded. 3 hollow thuds. She stepped back. The wall echoed. Behind it, there was space. That evening, when Mark got home, she told him. At first he laughed. Old houses settle weirdly, probably just insulation gaps. But when he knocked on the wall himself, his smile faded. That's strange, he said quietly. They fetched a flashlight and a small toolkit. Mark carefully removed a section of molding near the floor. A gust of cold, stale air escaped, the kind of air that hadn't moved in decades. "There's definitely a cavity back here," he said. Emma crouched beside him, shining the light into the narrow gap. Something shimmered faintly, dust swirling in the beam. Then a flash of color. "Is that paint?" she whispered. Mark widened the gap a little more and froze. Behind the wall was another layer of plaster, but this one had writing on it, faded red letters, a single phrase barely visible. "Don't open the door." Emma pulled back instantly. "What door?" Mark stared at the wall. I think this whole section was sealed off." Over the next few days, he became obsessed. He studied the blueprints they'd received from the realtor, comparing measurements of every wall, every corridor. Then he noticed something chilling. According to the original plans, there was supposed to be another room between the kitchen and Lily's bedroom. But in the current layout, it didn't exist. A missing room, completely sealed away. No door, no window, just walls and silence. "Why would anyone close off an entire room?" Emma asked. Mark didn't have an answer. But that night, as they sat at the kitchen table, surrounded by the house plans, they both felt it, the faint vibration of footsteps coming from behind that wall. Lily's voice broke the silence. "Mommy, the lady said not to open it." Emma turned. "What lady?" "The one behind the wall." The house never slept. Even in silence, it made sounds. The soft ticking, the creak of floorboards, a sigh of air through the vents. But lately, the noises have changed. They were no longer random. They were rhythmic. Every night, at the same hour, 2:47 a.m., a faint tapping echoed through the hall. 3 knocks, then silence. At first, Mark tried to record it, thinking maybe it was plumbing or the wind. But every time he hit record, the noise stopped. He even set up cameras. Nothing but static. Meanwhile, Emma began researching the house's history. She visited the local archives, the library, even spoke with the oldest neighbor on the street, Mrs. Langley, who had lived there since the 1960s. When Emma mentioned the address, the old woman's face went pale. "You bought that house?" she whispered. Emma nodded. "Why?" The old woman leaned forward. "Because that house was never meant to be sold again." Mrs. Langley told her that decades ago, a family named the Whittemores lived there, a couple and their teenage daughter. One night in 1973, the girl disappeared. No break-in, no struggle, just gone. Her parents insisted she was still in the house, but no one believed them. Weeks later, the mother was found wandering outside at dawn, barefoot, muttering, "She's still behind the wall." The police dismissed it as grief, but soon after, the Whittemores moved away and the house stayed empty for nearly 50 years. Emma's hands shook as she drove home. When she arrived, the lights were off, except for one. Lily's room. The door was slightly open. She stepped closer. "Lily?" No response. The flashlight beam hit the wall, and she froze. The wallpaper was torn again, but this time not by her. A section had peeled away completely, revealing a wooden panel beneath. Etched into it were deep scratches and small childlike handprints in dust. The next morning, Mark decided to act. "I'm opening it," he said. Emma tried to stop him, but he was determined. He drilled a small hole, then inserted a camera scope, the kind used for walls and vents. As the lens adjusted to the darkness, a small shape appeared on the monitor. A wooden chair, and something lying beside it, a box covered in cobwebs. No sign of life. But just as Mark leaned closer to the monitor, the camera flickered, and a faint whisper filled the room. "Don't!" The voice came through the speaker. The voice, female, faint, trembling. "Please, don't open the door." The room fell silent. Emma unplugged the device, shaking. "It's not possible," she whispered. But deep down, she knew something or someone was still inside that wall. And whatever it was, it did not want to be found. That night, the house felt alive. Every creak, every shadow seemed to whisper, "Don't do it." But Mark couldn't stop now. He had to know what was behind that wall. He started drilling again, slow, careful. Each screw he removed echoed like a countdown. The panel began to loosen. A thin stream of dust fell to the floor, carrying with it a faint, musty smell, like something long forgotten. "Mark, maybe we should wait until morning," Emma said softly. He didn't answer. The final screw dropped, and with one gentle pull, the wall gave way. A rush of cold air poured out, air that hadn't moved in nearly half a century.
The flashlight beam cut through the dark. The room was small, barely 6 feet wide, sealed tight from every side. Inside stood a wooden chair, a cracked mirror, and a small box covered in dust. No windows, no doors, just walls. "Someone lived here?" Emma whispered. Mark stepped in, brushing aside cobwebs. On the wall opposite the chair, written in faded chalk, were words. "I can still hear her crying." Emma froze. "Mark, let's go." But Mark was already kneeling beside the box. It was locked but brittle with age. One twist of the screwdriver, and it cracked open. Inside, a stack of yellowed photographs, a locket, and a diary wrapped in a piece of fabric. The first photo showed a young girl, around Lily's age, smiling in front of the same house. On the back, written in pencil, "Anna Whitmore, 1973. Emma opened the diary. The first entry read, "They told me not to go in the room, but I heard her calling my name." Page after page, drawings, notes, and a growing sense of fear. Until the last entry. "He's sealing the door now. I can hear him hammering. Please, if anyone finds this, don't open it." Emma's hands trembled. "Mark, we shouldn't be here." But before they could step out, Lily's voice echoed faintly from the hall. "Mommy, she's here." They turned. Lily stood frozen at the entrance, eyes wide, staring into the darkness of the hidden room. "Who's here, sweetie?" Emma asked softly. Lily pointed to the corner. "The girl. She's crying." Mark swung the flashlight toward the corner, but there was nothing, only the cracked mirror reflecting the three of them standing in the room, and for a split second, a faint silhouette of another figure standing behind them. Mark dropped the flashlight. The beam rolled across the floor, landing on the words carved faintly into the baseboard. "Don't let him out." They sealed the room again that night. Mark pushed the panel back into place, nailed it shut, and said they'd forget it ever existed. But the house didn't forget. The air grew colder. The smell of damp wood lingered in every room, and every night at 3:07 a.m., they heard it. Tap, 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 from behind the wall. At first, Mark thought it was the pipes, but when he pressed his ear to the wall, he swore he heard breathing. "Maybe it's rats," he said. Emma didn't answer. She'd stopped sleeping in their bedroom. She said she felt watched. Then, one night, Lily screamed. Mark ran into her room. The window was open, the curtains blowing, and the words, "Help her," were scrawled across the fogged glass. "Lily, what happened?" She was crying again. "The girl in the wall. She said her name is Anna." Mark searched the old records the next morning. The previous owners, the Whitmore family, had lived there in the 1970s. Their daughter, Anna Whitmore, disappeared in 1973. The case was never solved. The diary's last entry matched the exact date she went missing. Mark and Emma realized the sealed room wasn't built after she vanished. It was built to hide her. The next night, Mark returned to the wall. He could no longer stand the sound of tapping. "If there's someone here," he said, "we'll help you." He pried open the wall again. Inside, the chair was gone. The mirror lay shattered, and on the far side of the wall, something new. A door that wasn't there before. He reached out to touch it, and the lights went out. In the darkness, Emma screamed. Lily's voice echoed down the hall, "Daddy, don't go in." Mark stumbled forward, his flashlight flickering to life for just a second, enough to see a shadow standing inside the new doorway. Small, still. A little girl, holding the locket from the box. "Anna?" he whispered. She looked up, her eyes hollow, her face pale like ash, and she whispered one word, "Run." The floorboards cracked beneath him. The wall slammed shut. Emma pulled him back as the entire section collapsed inward, sealing itself again. When the dust cleared, the doorway was gone. In its place, a single message scratched into the plaster. "She's free now." The next morning, the house was quiet. No knocking, no whispers, no more cold air drifting through the halls. For the first time since they moved in, the house felt empty. The police arrived hours later. They found the broken wall, the shattered mirror, and the old locket lying in the rubble. Inside the locket was a small photograph, a girl with dark hair and bright eyes. And beside her, a man. The man was Thomas Whitmore, Anna's father, an architect, the original builder of the house. Investigators later confirmed what no one had ever suspected. Anna never ran away. She'd been kept hidden by her own father. The sealed room wasn't built to protect her. It was built to contain her. The diary's final words were Anna's plea for help, never seen until now. When the wall collapsed that night, it revealed more than old plaster. It revealed the truth that had haunted that house for half a century. After the investigation, the Harrisons decided to move out. They said goodbye to the house, but not to the memory of the girl who had called out from behind its walls. Emma still keeps the locket on her nightstand. Lily sometimes says she dreams of Anna, standing in a sunlit field, smiling. And Mark, he's never built another house since. They say every home has its story. Some are happy, some are sad, and some should never be uncovered. Because the walls remember even when we try to forget.